Now, let's move on to Task 10, Project Change Management. We previously discussed a process called Integrated Change Control. The first step is to anticipate and welcome change. In essence, it means recognizing that change is practically unavoidable in any project. In Predictive Project Management, there's a specific process for handling changes. We primarily adhere to this change control procedure. In Agile methodology, which we'll cover later, change is embraced. Agile has its own approach to managing changes. We'll delve into these Agile change management techniques later. The key is to adopt this change-ready mindset from the start. Okay, moving on. Second, establish a change management strategy. Predictive methods focus on comprehensive change control. Agile, on the other hand, embraces change. These approaches differ significantly, yet both have specific strategies in place. Third, implement change management methodologically. In other words, put your strategy into action. Lastly, define measures to handle changes and move forward. This allows us to maintain effective control. It prevents project scope from expanding unchecked, and keeps the project from spinning out of control. This allows us to effectively keep everything under control. Alright, task number 10, managing project changes. Moving on to task 11, planning and managing procurement. The truth is, not everything can be handled easily by ourselves. In some cases, it's more cost-effective and appropriate to outsource. Let's start by understanding the process of defining resource requirements. What exactly do we need to accomplish? Next, communicate these resource needs. Where can we potentially source this from? If we can't handle it in-house, we'll outsource it. The third point is supplier and contract management, which involves procurement. Between us and the supplier, we specify the resources needed, and the funding we'll provide. They'll then deliver the finished product. The fourth point, procurement strategy planning and management, which means we've identified the resources we need. We're aware of suitable suppliers for our needs. Furthermore, we understand how to collaborate effectively with these suppliers to ensure we obtain our desired outcomes while they achieve their objectives. Next, we move on to implementation. This involves publishing a call for tenders, followed by a bidders conference, then bid opening and evaluation, and finally, contract signing. The next phase is developing a delivery strategy, which comes into play post-contract. They should be capable of implementing these requirements for us. To do this, they need to develop a detailed delivery strategy. This is part of the bidding process, where they need to present an effective solution. All of this falls under procurement, which often takes an impartial stance when evaluating these matters. Moving on to the 12th task, which is managing project deliverables. Let's talk about the term artifact. In project management, you can think of it simply as the building blocks of a project. It's similar to actual building blocks. They're made up of various pieces. In the same way, project management has numerous documents and deliverables. All these elements are what we refer to as artifacts. That's the basic concept. Now, the first point is identify the needs for project artifact management. This includes content, timelines, locations, team members, and more. Let me break it down. When we need to create project deliverables, we need specific team members at the right time to set certain requirements to carry out specific tasks. This leads to the creation of various project artifacts. First, let's clarify these requirements. Next, ensure project information is current. All relevant plans are easily accessible. It boils down to one crucial point: version control. This means everything we're delivering, all our project artifacts, including all documents and files, are always up to date, and those with proper permissions can access them as needed. Okay, next, we need to constantly assess how effectively we're managing these artifacts. In other words, we need to ensure our current artifacts, everything is in excellent condition, all up-to-date versions, within the 10 project management knowledge areas. We don't explicitly stress artifact management. However, there's an implicit process of compiling lessons learned, organizing process assets, and managing project documents. These documents are part of our project artifacts. We need to effectively control these artifacts during project execution. These documents provide crucial support. All these artifacts are essential for project success. Let's move on to point number 13. Choosing the right project methodology. This involves various methods and practices. We've already touched on this briefly. We have predictive project management and agile project management. Even within the agile framework, we have methodologies like Scrum, Kanban, Lean Management, Crystal Methodology, PDD, and others. Now, it's important to determine the right project management approach. First, evaluate the project's requirements, complexity, and scale. For large-scale projects, agile methods might not be the best fit. Agile is better suited for smaller, short-term projects. For long-term projects, you should opt for predictive approaches with predictive methods. For smaller phases, you can use Agile internally. but the big picture should stay consistent and well-defined. So, considering project characteristics, like complexity and scale, our approach may vary. The second strategy one recommend is deciding whether to develop in-house or outsource for better results. Or perhaps you need to secure funding to develop it in-house. As for your recommended approaches, should we use predictive methods, agile methodologies, or a hybrid approach? By hybrid, we mean prediction plus iteration, prediction with incremental development, or prediction combined with agile methods. These approaches could mean predicting first, then applying agile, or starting with agile and then predicting. It's about combining agile with prediction. This is a hybrid approach. The approach depends on the project itself, its specific nature and characteristics. Let's explore the best way to approach this. Okay. Next, across the project lifecycle, we apply iterative and incremental practices to execute tasks. This approach implies that for certain projects, their inherent nature suits an agile methodology. Using an iterative approach, we can implement agile sprints. We'll dive deeper into this in the agile section later. Additionally, lessons learned can be continuously incorporated. Stakeholder involvement can also evolve, as we might identify new relevant parties throughout the process. We'll keep track of all these additions. New risks will also be identified and addressed at each project phase. Associated risks, once addressed, we'll update our documentation. This is also incremental. However, beyond these procedural document updates, the entire scope of all work can be developed incrementally. We'll cover this in the Agile section later in more detail. This helps choose the right project approach, methods and best practices. Consider the project's unique features when choosing suitable methods and practices. Task number 14. Set up project governance structure. Now, about governance. We touched on this earlier. Remember the saying about Han Xian's army? Lu Bang oversees his top generals. The big boss supervises these leaders. That's governance in action. Leaders then manage their teams. And that's what we call management. You likely get the idea here. The company's board of directors. They set the company's rules and systems. This is governance. One point mentions establish proper project governance. How to implement governance. This isn't a project manager's job. It's beyond the project manager's scope. But you should know a bit about it. It's a concept to be aware of. Okay, one more thing. Establish reporting channels and set key indicators. In essence, how to address specific issues. These guidelines we've established. Procedures, escalation protocols, and workflow processes. All these are part of your governance framework, established in advance. It's crucial to understand how these guidelines work. They're predetermined in the governance plan. Now, let's address the 15th point, project issue management. We typically differentiate between issues and risks. However, as we'll see later, you'll discover that in Agile project management, issues and risks are sometimes treated interchangeably, without strict distinction. In contrast, predictive project management often differentiates between the two. So how do we distinguish them? Risks are potential events, but it's something that might happen in the future. A problem, on the other hand, has already occurred. So let's examine this further. Let's start with the first point. Recognize when a risk turns into a problem. At what point does it become a problem? It has actually happened, or it's absolutely certain to happen. In these cases, it's clearly become a problem. However, the key point here isn't about identifying when something becomes a problem. The real issue is that, when faced with a problem, what's our next move? A problem comes up. We obviously need to find a solution. So when this happens, we might need to gather more info, then analyze the impact. Next, come up with a solution. And finally, tackle the problem. That's the usual thought process. Okay, next point. Take the best approach. Solve the problem. Ensure project success. When an issue comes up, we analyze the root cause, develop solutions, then put them into action to fix the issue. Alright. Also, the issue itself. We need to monitor closely. Say we spot an issue. Let's add it to the issue log. Then assign a person in charge. Following that, each step. You'll see, all of this relates to the problem. The next point concerns the solution. How to tackle the issue, and collaborate on solving it. Basically, this means, when tackling some issues, we might not be able to rely on our own resources alone. We might need to draw on additional support. This could mean collaborating with others. Moreover, as the project unfolds, stakeholders may face numerous issues and challenges. We must take initiative in helping them overcome this, since we're being paid for our services to carry out work for them. It's crucial we address their issues effectively. To sum up, we should partner with stakeholders to develop effective problem-solving strategies. Let's talk about project management challenges. Moving on to point number 16, out of 17 in total. This brings us to our second point. It's about ensuring knowledge transfer to maintain project continuity. First off, while working on a project, we always gain insights and learn lessons. These insights help us improve in future projects. As for the lessons, they prevent us from repeating mistakes. We can prevent these issues from recurring. These experiences and lessons are valuable. They're all beneficial in the long run. They help us in the future too. Approach tasks more efficiently, avoiding unnecessary mistakes and setbacks. This section focuses on ensuring knowledge transfer. It means passing down our experiences and lessons, ensuring they're preserved for future use. Our accumulated organizational knowledge should be effectively transferred and maintained. Let's start with the first point: defining team roles and responsibilities. Basically, it means who's in charge of what. You handle this task. If issues arise, you're better positioned to gain deeper insights and learn from the experience. Okay. Second point: outline project environment expectations. So, how do we approach this? In other words, when you're in charge of something, you need to understand under what conditions the task can be effectively executed and run smoothly. Essentially, it's about setting standards for getting things off the ground. Right. Also, as you work on this, if you gain any insights or learn any lessons, as knowledge is generated, both tacit and explicit, we need a way to manage it effectively. This includes tools for knowledge and information management, converting tacit to explicit knowledge, and compiling it into manuals. These become repositories of lessons learned, ensuring effective knowledge transfer. Finally, let's consider the last step: project closure or handover. Planning phase closure or handover. In other words, ending a project or phase, concluding projects and phases. This falls under project integration management, the final topic we'll cover. Let's start with the first point: confirming successful project closure or phase completion criteria. What are these criteria? Typically, right at the start, when drafting the project charter, we establish these criteria. It's another way of working backwards from the end goal. Now, for the second point: ensure everything's ready for the handover process. When you're preparing for the end of a project or phase, you need to finalize everything and prepare for the handover. There's a lot to get ready beforehand, including all the project deliverables and necessary supporting documentation. You need to cover all bases. For instance, my old teacher, Mr. Luo, back when I worked in software, we had to do more than just deliver results. Besides client deliverables, we had to create a ton of documentation, requirement specs, design outlines, detailed designs, database schemas, user guides, and the list goes on and on. It was a mountain of paperwork. All of this had to be ready beforehand. Finally, let's cover the last point: wrap up the project or phase closure activities. This includes reflecting on experiences and lessons learned, conduct an internal review and self-assessment of the project. Next, finalize all procurement activities, complete the financial closeout, release all project resources. Regarding these procurement and financial aspects, settle all outstanding payments. Then, reallocate or release team members and assets. In essence, once the project is completed, the team disbands and moves on. Everyone went their separate ways. Time for the next project. We've just taken some time to break down for you all the exam structures. Second component, called process. Process makes up half the exam. With 90 questions, it's crucial, if you've studied thoroughly, the 5 key areas, the 10 knowledge areas of project management, 49 project management processes. You'll gain a clear understanding of these process elements and their overall application in project management. We'll also cover Agile methodologies, including the Scrum framework and other Agile frameworks. Throughout these sessions, you'll deepen your understanding and gain additional insights into the project management process with dedicated study. I'm confident you'll master these concepts